The comments and opinions of this program may be considered offensive. Viewer discretion is advised. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Uncommon Sense. This is your co-host, Billy. Today, I'm going to be covering some of the more uncomfortable topics regarding children and their safety. For me, being a parent, these are extremely important subjects to be talking about these days. They need to be addressed, no matter how uneasy they make me or anyone else. During our first roundtable discussion, the guys and I talked about these strange and unnerving approaches that some of the activists out there are trying to mainstream with the sexualization of children. We specifically talked about the push recently to allow kink around kids, but that is only one thing that these radical activists are up to. This insane behavior also includes teaching our kids about sexuality in school as young as kindergarten, putting drag queens in schools and libraries to read to children, meanwhile they proceed to twerk in front of them, and other disgusting things like that. There's also been children's programs on Nickelodeon and the Disney Channel that even include songs sang by drag queens. Another thing that we brought up was teachers masturbating in front of children in a classroom. These things are unacceptable as far as I am concerned, and if none of these things disturb you, I honestly recommend getting a psychoanalysis and staying the heck away from children. Just a few years ago, all of these such things could have landed a person in serious trouble. You would have been in prison for doing things like this. Now it's being mainstreamed. Meanwhile, our so-called president is trying to get kids into public school as young as 3 years old. And many politicians out there are wanting to make homeschooling illegal. If there has ever been an important time for parents to be heard, the time is now. These types of things being pushed on our kids are disturbing and wrong, and the fact that the opinions of the average moral free-thinking parents are being ignored and even silenced, while the voices of the twisted minority even of these activists are being completely left alone. This is a huge problem. It's a red flag. If there ever has been a red flag, this is a red flag to a dark future that we're looking at. I am sure that I am not the only one that is disturbed and angered. This seriously, it really gets me in my core. So, and I'm 100% positive that I'm not the only one that is disturbed by this stuff, especially being a parent. However, even many non-parents are not okay with these things happening. If our children are our future, which they most definitely are, then how in the world do y'all think our future looks if our children are being subjected to these disturbing ideas? Psychological science has proven over decades of time, they have proven the negative effects of children being introduced to sexual orientated ideas before they have fully matured. Yet, we are now supposed to suddenly believe that teaching kids about sex and sexual orientation at as young as 5 is somehow progressive, and kids are learning to be inclusive. These things are disgusting ideals, and they are only twisting young minds, and as a result, they will create twisted adults. Something that really disturbs me as well is how these types of things are coming out of the LGBTQ plus community. I personally remember a time when gays and lesbians were they were legitimately looked at as strange individuals, and many people at that time still had this strange idea that many homosexuals were molesters, which is far from the truth. It's not even close. The large majority of the gay community are normal people with morals and values. So all of this twisted ideology that's coming out now is making homosexuals look bad all over again after all of that hard work to prove that they are just normal people who want to live their lives and be left alone. So I want you guys to understand that there is a huge gap between the actual gay community and these associated with the community that continues to add letters to its name on a monthly basis. When the gay rights movement started, it was about actual acceptance. At that time, there was genuine animosity and hostility toward homosexuality. I personally believe that people should be allowed to be themselves and live their lives in peace as they like, as long as they are not causing any harm to others, whether that harm is physical or mental. If they are simply living their lives as peaceful citizens, let them do so. So this brings me to my next point of how this gnarled way of thinking is and will affect our children and the children of the future. For those of you who don't know, many of you probably do, but for those of you who don't, child molesters have been trying to infiltrate the gay community for years. I think it was back in the 1970s. It might have been the 80s, but I'm pretty sure it was the 70s. The Man-Boy Love Association came out, and this is a group that literally invited boys to, hang out with adult men and commit disgusting acts. They tried to normalize this sick behavior. These mentally ill people are now trying to convince the rest of society that attraction to minors is simply another sexual orientation. They even have a name for themselves. They call themselves MAPS, which stands for Minor Attracted Persons. You might think I'm kidding, but you go look it up for yourself. I am always one to encourage self-education and research. Being informed is especially important these days, and yeah, now more than ever, it's important to be informed and educate yourself. And for me, as someone with kids, I myself find all of these things highly alarming, and this, quote, activism that has surfaced, I am very concerned for not just my children, but other children out there as well. Luckily, my children have not been subjected to any of this sort of thing, but I was anti-indoctrination, as I call it, before I ever had kids. So I have homeschooled from day one. But I see now more than I ever did before how wise I was to make that decision when I did. Because the indoctrination of children has just gotten worse like 100-fold over the last few years. The average gay person does not stand for this any more than I do. And it is time to stop letting fear of ridicule or whatever else keep us quiet. If you disagree with this stuff, stand strong. Say something. We are larger in number than these whacked out activists, and it is high time that we get even louder. We have to be louder than them, or this sort of thing will continue. And as a parent, to see the world in a different light. I mean, I personally do. I see the world in a different light being a parent. And I personally strive to protect my children from these dark sides of the world. As they get older, they will ask me questions and I will answer them to the best of my ability. And these activists want me to believe that my protecting my children is sheltering them. But there is a distinct difference between sheltering and protecting. My kids have been taught about the dangers of a stranger and how to protect themselves, as well as even being prepared for the unthinkable to happen. And I hope it never happens. But we have talked about these things. My children are not sheltered. They know that there's things out there that they're not fully aware of yet because they're not old enough for me to have talked to them about it yet. However, they do know that there are bad people out there and people that will harm them. So I have prepared them for events where they might encounter someone who will harm them. And I think everyone that is a parent or a guardian, aunt, uncle, or whatever, if you have children out there that you care about, you need to teach them these things. You need to teach them that not everyone is good, not everything is good, and not everyone is trustworthy, that there are people out there that will hurt them in one way or another, and prepare them for these events that we hope to the gods in heaven that this will never happen. But I could honestly talk about this subject for probably 2.5 hours because I am very passionate about it and I'm angry about it. And if this disturbs you, get angry about it. We all need to be a little more angry about these things. This is about protecting our kids, our loved ones, and all the children in the future. So to wrap this up, I just want to say that I appreciate all our viewers. I thank you guys for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. I want to know what you guys think, and how do you feel about the things that I personally find significantly uncomfortable and wrong? What are your ideas on how we can battle this? And with that, I'd like to say, stay safe, stay informed, and thanks again for watching.
Damn it, Billy, give me back my liquor.